Hi, friends. Happy Monday. We just got a torrential rain that came through, so hopefully the noise will stay down. Not sure if we're going to keep having rain tonight or not, but happy rainy Monday. I'm always happy because it keeps my flower garden, watered, and I have lots of wildflowers, so I want them to really take root this year because many of them will be perennials and will come back every year. Okay, so tonight I'm going to be sharing the Painterly Pears Suite Collection, and I'm going to be making some cards from that suite. But before I get there, I just wanted to remind you this is an online exclusive item. So that means that it's only available online. There's no catalog or anything. If you want a copy of this little printout, I can send it to you. It's available from demonstrators, and it gives you all the items that are in each suite. So I showed you Floral Charm the last 2 weeks, and Full of Charm, and then Painterly Pears is another suite, and then one of the suites is called Spooky Suite, and I'm going to show you some cards. I just got 15 cards back from a swap. One of them I made, and then so I'll show you some of those that are from that swap because they're from this online exclusive. And then we have Bauble Blooms, which has either you can make floral or Christmas type blooms. There's Just a Note, which I have as well. I'll be using that for scrapbooking. Fright Night Bundle, Label Me Grateful, Tractor and Company Bundle, Holly Jolly Bundle. So again, you'll need to look online. A Little Cheer Bundle, and then Need for Tweed is just some DSP that has some really nice fall colors to it. Sunflower 3D folder, Artistic Leaves, Prairie Grass, Party Celebrations, and that's it. So lots of fun new online exclusive items. So I'm going to show you, these are the Spooky Suite Collection. And these are some of the cards that I got from my swap. So I'm just going to open them up and show them to you. Isn't that cute? I see that they used the, I don't remember what it's called. It's an embossing folder, corrugated. So happy Halloween. That's a really cute one. I love the die of the little house. Isn't that sweet? And then, of course, you've got these sparkly little stars that are part of it. And I believe they're called Shimmer Star. They're foam, so they're not hard, which is really nice when you're trying to mail it. And this is from Leanne Furness, and that's part of the demonstrators here in Minnesota. There's this adorable card, which, oh my goodness, look at that. Isn't that cute? No tricks, all treats. Happy Halloween. And these are one of the punch outs that come in the suite. This is made from Janine Pullman. And then this one, Don't Worry, Eat Sweets. I love these little vinyl, actually they may be embossed bats. Isn't that cute? And then they've embossed this little Frankenstein as well. So hopefully I'm showing them. I'm not. And then Happy Halloween. This is one of the punch outs. Super cute. And then here's another one that has a little house. And they put a gate on there as well. So yeah. So that person had embossed the little bats. That's really great. And super cute. This is by Lynn Fieldcamp. And this one here was done by Sean Perez. So I love these cards. They're so cute. Okay, and then from the, let's see. This one here is Tractor and Company Bundle. And another cute card. It looks like it's mostly from dies, and then they've got some stamping here as well. And they embellish the inside. This is by Terry Gaines. Such a cutie. I like that she used the little black gems for the hubcaps of this tractor. Pretty fancy. And then I've got another one from Terry Gaines. And this one, I want to say is, let's figure out. I'm not seeing the stamp set on my list. So I'm not sure, but this is a really beautiful fall. And I just don't see that. So I'm wondering, there's no sentiment with it. And I'm not seeing the fall set that goes with it. Which is too bad because it's really cute. So, or really pretty. And she had a little, that's a fun fold. So, cute little fun fold. Okay. And then this one is the new embossing embossing folder. I think it's Sunflower. Let's see. Sunflower 3D embossing folder. So I love how they use the white of the white craft or the white stamp pad, and looks like they just lightly embossed over it, so it just kind of gives it a definitely a 3D look. Really beautiful. This was by Michelle Lynch. And then this one is the Prairie Grass by Joyce Hellerman. And I love how she did a little blending and created a silhouette of like a moon. So that's really beautiful. So this is a really delicate, beautiful card. Really happy with that. This one, I think it was from the last online exclusive. And this is just an adorable one. I know they have a long dog as well. Christmas time is here. So it's a really cute little llama. And then I love how they did the patterns behind. And this one was done by Michelle Faust. She's quite the talented person. Okay, so this one is obviously the Floral Charm, so or Charming Day, and this was done by Sandy Carlson. Super cute. And then this is another one from Charming Day or Floral Charm. And this one is done by Karen Titus. Really beautiful. I love how she just popped those florals. Really, really beautiful. I think she fussy cut out one of the flowers. And then I've been seeing people making this card. So this is, they've used one of those arched dies and made it into a, so by doing the fold just above where you would be cutting, so the die would be up here, they're able to make a really beautiful card. So this is using the Floral Charms or Charming Day. And then she made a card out of it. Betty Weisbrick. Very beautiful. Here's another one. And really beautiful with the rose here. This is Aurora Tucker. And this is the one that I did. So I didn't put anything on the inside, but I hand colored the floral here with blends to match the florals, and then stamped it again on the DSP. The DSP is just a really pretty berry burst wash. So, And then I've got some of these Painterly Pear cards, and these were, this one was done by Kathleen Chapman. And so the DSP is so beautiful. And then all she had to do was add a little embellishment and a sentiment. And I know that this is not from the set, so little kindness makes a big difference. It's really beautiful. And then we have this one. Both of these are the same colors, and it's funny how you just get a completely different look just with a little bit of change. So this has just got a little knot in it. That's clever. And this is by Kathy Seal. Okay, so the two cards that we're going to make, so these were my cards from my swap that were for the online exclusive items. And then here is one of the cards we're going to make tonight, which is also available in my monthly card class. So if you are card buffet, so if you're interested in making this card yourself, and because you're not sure if you want to do the suite, come on the 26th of July, and my card buffet starts at 11 a.m. And I usually have 10 to 12 cards for you to choose from. This will be one of them. And then the other card we're going to make is this one. This is just a little stamping on watercolor paper. So it gives it a real pretty watercolor look. And using the DSP as a background. And then I used some colors that weren't necessarily matching the suite, but I liked having my pear have a little bit of a sweet little rosy glow to it. So, but these are the two cards we're going to make. And just to kind of go over the suite, it includes the Perfectly Pears bundle. Let me just bring this up a little closer so that you can see it. So you can see that the stamps include two-step stamping, which gives you, one gives you the outline of the pear, the other one gives you the color on the inside. So there's two different stamps here I used. And then, of course, you can see that the die cuts it out. Same thing with this leaf. Excuse me. There's some speckles that you can put on your pear as well. A little set of pears. So you can see this is the one without the outline. A floral. And then you've got 5 greetings. A good friend is a gift. Congratulations. Friend. Hello. Thank you. So you compare the hello, friend, or thank you, friend. So it's just really pretty. And then, as you can see, the DSP has 4 items that can be die cut. And that's what I did to create this card, is I die cut out from the DSP. Then it has a beautiful mossy meadow ribbon, which is so gorgeous. And then it's got gold on the opposite side, which makes it so pretty. And then there are these little low profile sparkle dots. I love them when they're low profile because it doesn't take extra for shipping. And then we have the 12 by 12 DSP. So you can see that the back side of this one is here. And you can see these rich colors are just so pretty. And then this one has a large area of white. It doesn't show in this little sample, but I can bring it out and show it to you. And then this one is the one we're going to be using tonight. And then some really beautiful colors. And then some of the coordinating colors are Basic Beige, Cloud Cover, Secret Sea, Mossy Meadow, Old Olive, Darling Duckling, and Petal Pink. So, all right, let's put these aside and so you can see them. All right, so the first one we're going to do is this little watercolor card. And it's a real easy card. It's actually not that hard, so it looks complicated, but it's really not. Hey, Amy, so glad that you joined me. Oh, good. I'm glad you're going to come to the class. It'll be a fun distraction for you. Okay, so the Perfectly Pears, you can see that I'm going to use this pear right here. And so you can see that it's got a bit of a texture to it. And so it's really fun to stamp with because you get a little bit of light and dark. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to use two colors. So let me just show you real quick. Okay, so I'm taking my stamp pad and I'm using Granny Apple Green, and I have a piece of the cardstock from the watercolor paper. So what I did is I took 5.5 or 5x7 and I cut it in quarters, and then I trimmed a little bit so that it would work on an A2 card base. So you can see that the A2 card base is basic white. I put a layer of Old Olive and then a layer of the DSP. And I like my sections to be fairly close to the correct size. So you can see that it's just really close. And so I'll give you the dimensions here in just a second. Okay, so this little piece of colored or watercolor paper is 3.5 by 2 3/8. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my little jar of water and I'm going to just gently wet this cardstock. Not a ton, just a little. And I have a fan overhead, so it's going to actually dissipate here pretty shortly. So about where my pear is going to go. Then I'm going to use my Granny Apple Green to ink up my pear. So you can see where it's darker and where the lighter part is. The lighter part, I'm going to come in with, this is Flirty Flamingo, and I'm just going to tap it a little bit in this lighter area to bring in a little bit of the pink. Now remember, I added a little bit of water so that my, and I'm going to angle it this time. I did it just straight up and down, but this time I'm going to angle it. So I want it to have a little bit of a watercolor look, which just spreads out the color just a little. So it's not completely drenched like when you're watercoloring, because I didn't want it to bleed a lot. Now you can see that I did the same thing a little bit with the little pears. I wasn't as fond of that look. And then I used the cloud cover blend around it and the cloud cover for the leaves, because there actually wasn't any color in the leaves, but I didn't like the look of that. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing with the leaves, but instead of using the Flirty Flamingo, I'm going to use my Early Espresso marker, and I'm going to kind of go over this green stem and make it more brown. So it's not an exact brown, but it's pretty close. Now, as you can see, my leaves, the cardstock wasn't wet enough, so it wasn't very, it didn't spread out, and it has a little bit of almost like a photo look to it. So I'm just going to just tap it a little bit so it gives it that watercolor look. So I'm just, and then any place where I just feel like it wasn't wet enough. And it spreads the color out a little bit. So, and then a little bit over here as well, because I don't like it to have that machine look. I want it to look more free-flowing watercolor look, if that makes sense. Okay. All right, so now that I've got that, I'm just going to set it aside. Now, as you notice, I have, it looks like Pool Party behind. And what I did is I used a blend because I just kind of wanted that look. You can come in with a Pool Party and watercolor around the edges, or you can just use the fat tip of your blend. And I'm just going to just go around my pear. I have a bit of a storm here. I'm not sure if you do, Amy, but it's thundering a bit. Just glad that we're not in Texas. I've been keeping prayers for those people. It just breaks my heart to hear about all those children lost and family members lost. It's really scary, just heartbreaking. All right. So this will lighten up as it dries, but it just gives it a little bit of a, just a little bit of a color wash. And I think I probably could have gotten a prettier look if I'd used watercolor. But when you watercolor something that you just watercolored, you'll find that your colors blend too much. And I didn't want that. Okay, so let's set that aside. Now we can create our card. And I have some strips that I cut off of a piece that I had made a little bit too big. And so I'm going to use that for my sentiment. So it ends up being about 3/8 of an inch by, I think it's like 2 1/4. No, 1 3/4. So I need to just trim that real quick. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp my sentiment in Flirty Flamingo. And then we can start building the card. Okay. So I have an A2 card base. So 8.5 by 11 by, or sorry, 8.5 by 5.5. But it's 8.5 by 11 cut in half. And then I'll be gluing the Old Olive. So the reason I chose Old Olive is because I think that my Granny Apple Green can look a little olive, especially when I mix it with other colors. So I felt comfortable. I think that that's, even though it's Granny Apple Green, the green cardstock is too bright for what I was trying to achieve. So, and because this cardstock has the Old Olive in it, I thought between the two and having a little separation with the DSP that it would be a really beautiful match in it. I really like it. So, okay. And then I have this little strip. This little strip can go just on the inside. It's just a little extra. When I do my cards, they tend to be 4" by 5 1/4 from my DSP. Whenever I do my DSP, that way I can get a good 6 cards out of 1 12 by 12 DSP. And so when I do that, then I end up with a little 3/4 inch by 4". And you can just put that in the inside just to kind of decorate. Okay. So I need to add this to my card base. And I'm just gluing everything on, not popping anything up because my sentiment will be popped up. And then I'm trying to make sure at least the top 3, I want those dimensions to be pretty close to the same. Now, before I start building this card the rest of the way, I did forget one step. And that is I'm going to splatter. I have a little stamp, and I'm going to use the early espresso so that I end up with little spots for the pear. And then I'm going to splatter around this just to give it a little bit of a, I guess you could call it artsy fartsy. Now, if you want to just splatter the pear, you could, because the pears end up having all kinds of colors. And what I did is I just used the dye, and this is the leftover, and I'm using that to kind of protect the rest of my card. And so I can come back with, I'm going to use the fat end. I do not flick my tips because my wears my tips out. So I tend to just crack it against, and if you want it over the whole thing, then you can remove that. And I crack it over and I get plenty of speckles, which that's what I'm looking for. I'm using the dark Flirty Flamingo as well. And then I'm using the dark of the Granny Apple, and I can use Mossy Meadow instead if I want. But just adding a little sparkle or a little flex to it just kind of gives it a little bit of an artistic mode. And then the last thing that I do is I am distressing the edges. Now if you want, you can use your scissors or you can use your fingernail. If you use the scissors, it is going to distress it a whole lot more, as you can see. Just gives it like it's fresh linen paper or watercolor paper. You know, if you look at some of the art prints that are watercolor, they'll tend to have a real distressed edge on them. So just another little artsy fartsy element. Okay. So next I'm just going to glue that on. And so this little piece of cardstock is like 1/8 of an inch more. So this was 3.5 by 2 3/8. So this would be 3 7/8. No, sorry, 3 5/8 by 2.5. So that would be the Flirty Flamingo piece. Okay, now I just forgot to add my ribbon. Bummer. I got carried away. I forgot about my ribbon. So rather than wrap it around the whole thing, I could just wrap it around this part, and I'll just lift this part here. We'll have to glue it down again. And I'm just going to tie this in a little knot. And I'm going to need to glue this edge down again. Make sure that my ribbon is where I want it. So I put this card together forgetting that it needed to go underneath. Sorry about that. To err is human, eh? Okay, so I know about how long I need it. And I'm just going to be tying it in a quick knot. So if you're doing a knot, just as a hint, I like to put a glue dot down. It helps me tie my little knot, and it helps it hold in place while I'm doing the tying. So let me show you what I mean. So I put the knot or the glue dot about where I wanted it, and then you press it down, and then you can finish your little bow or knot or whatever it is you're trying to do, and you're not having to fight with that. There. I think that still works. Okay, so now my little sentiment is going to go off the edge a little bit. So I'm going to add a dimensional there, and then a glue dot where it overlaps, because there's a couple of layers here. So you can see that the watercolor paper is pretty thick, and then the Flirty Flamingo is thick enough that I don't not want it necessarily to be two dimensionals, because then there'll be a little bit of a slant. So I know I want my sentiment about right here. And then I add the glue dot. And then I can just And I'm going to distress the edges a little bit so it matches. And now all we need to do is add our embellishments. So I'm going to add these low profile sparkle dots, and I just wanted to show these up close so you can see how much they sparkle. Maybe you can't. Not sure how well my camera's picking up the sparkle. Ah, yeah, thank you. Oh, I'm glad I've touched something, Amy. I just, something a little different. Okay, so we're going to just add a couple of embellishments. And then there we go. And you can see these low profile dots are actually really low profile, which makes them really nice for mailing. So I love doing that. Okay, so that is the first card. And for my envelope, I would probably, if I'm trying to hoard my DSP, which I think that a lot of us tend to do because we're just sure we've got a better project for it, then I could just use like a little 1-inch strip of the same DSP down here at the bottom. So it'd be like a little bit bigger than this, or if this is 3/8 of an or 3/4 of an inch, and it makes a really nice finish on your envelope. If you have tons to spare, then obviously you can cover the back of your flap, or you can just add another pair here stamped from the set, either this pair or you could use the little pair like this one right there. So just fun ideas. Okay, so that's the first card. And that's the last of the watercoloring that we'll be doing. So let me get these things out of the way. Okay, so the next one is this card. And uh-oh, am I cutting out? Sorry about that. Can you hear me? Hopefully it didn't stop. Looks like everything's working from my end till it still tells me that I've got my connection. Okay, so for this card, we're going to use some of the dies and we're going to cut out the DSP. So I'm just going to show you how well it works with this beautiful DSP. So let me show you one of the pieces so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is the DSP that all of the items on here, except for the little yellow flowers, can all be die cut from the dies. These dies right here, these 4. So that's what I am using for this card. The other card that, or the other DSP I wanted to show you that was really lovely is this one here. And I think it just makes a beautiful, you can make a beautiful scrapbook page, or if you cut it into little sections, it gives you a blank area to actually add your sentiment right on the DSP, and it makes it really simple to make beautiful cards. So just some ideas. Okay, not to confuse things. All right, let's die cut these out. So this is the card that will be part of the class. And so it gives you an opportunity to play with this suite if you're interested. So the little leaf, you want to be careful not to let your dies overlap each other. And so you can see that I used 2 flowers, 1 pear, and 1 set of little pears, 1 set of big pears. So I'll have to run it twice through if I want 2 sets of flowers. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, I'm glad you can hear me now. Yes, it's really beautiful paper. I love this. I usually don't do pears too much. I mean, pears is one of my favorite fruits, but I don't usually get into pear DSP. But this suite is just so beautiful. The paper colors are so rich. Okay. So you can see the DSP just works so nicely with these dies. You can also die cut what you stamp as well. So it does both. And then I can die cut this other flower here in a minute. Okay. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we have the Daffodil Delight. I do not have the Darling Duckling stamp pad. Sometimes when the new uncolors come out and I just feel like I have enough of the same colors already, then I tend to not purchase. So I didn't purchase that one. I feel like I've got enough yellow and I don't use yellow very often. So, but I thought with these pears, it would be kind of pretty to have a little bit of a highlight of yellow. So this is more of like an avid crafter. Yeah, I think Stampin' Up does such a great job with their DSP. So I agree, Amy. Okay, so that is just about all the color that you need, because then you're going to be bringing in some other elements. Okay, so that is for that. And that's the only yellow I'm going to need. So this is going to be a layer, but I need to cut out. These are some other of the dies that come with the set. And you can see that they have the little dies for the sentiments as well, which is great. Okay, so I'm going to use this as a layer, but rather than using the whole thing, I'm going to use the inside part to cut out a piece that I'm going to be using as a layer. And then I can still layer this over the top and no one will see that I die cut that out. But it helps me conserve a little DS or a little bit of cardstock. And let me get that last flower die cut at the same time. All right. Okay, so as you can see, my little leaf was cut out of the middle with this die, and so I'm left with this, but I can still layer over the top. So before I do that though, there's a few things I need to do. So do you see how I did a little bit of the speckles? You don't have to, but I like the speckles in the pears and I just thought I would add a little bit. So using, this is called SU100, but it's one of the blends that they use for skin tones. So we're just going to add some splatters. That one goes very generously. And then we're going to use some of the Daffodil Delight splatters as well. There we go. Okay, so now it's ready for me to glue on. Okay. So we'll glue this together, and you know what? I should have stamped my little sentiment. So I'm going to have to be careful and make sure that I don't stamp where my die is. Okay, so I have a little sentiment that needs to go in Poppy Parade. Note to self, stamp before you put it together. Okay. So my little sentiment needs to go where I didn't put the dies, so we're going to stick it up here at the top. Yeah, it looks like I don't have a choice. It needs to be up at the top. So I'll have to place my items around that. Even though Poppy Parade wasn't part of the colors noted on the DSP, I just want to come back and share with you. I think that they may have used some sort of red, even though they only list the petal pink. You can see there's red here. There's some red on the pears, some red blooms, some red in the middle of the flowers. You can see these pears have a lot of red. So I think it's safe to say that, you know, just take a look at the paper and let it be your guide. Okay, so then next I can start building my card. So then again, this is just an A2 card. Now it doesn't have to fold the way I have it. You can have it so that it's actually 11 by 4 1/4, and that makes a good folding for a card that goes this way as well. And then I've got this DSP. It's so beautiful. I love the Secret Sea as the background. So pretty. Just the rich dark colors of it. It's going to be a beautiful card for even into the fall. And if you wanted to, I think pears are very festive. Whoops. I have a layer of Secret Sea that needs to go. Okay, so this needs to go on my Secret Sea. So again, my DSP is 4 inches by 5 1/4, and then my Secret Sea is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then it just nests really beautifully on a white cardstock. It just gives it a really beautiful framed look. Okay, so now I can add and I'm just going to center this on the DSP. I just love the little touches of red in here with the yellow and the greens. And the Secret Sea just makes a really beautiful, lush background. Oh, thanks, Amy. Okay, so next we're going to just start building, and just going to add a little bit of glue to the back of this. Not a lot. Less is more when it comes to the glue. And then because I have such fat fingers, I'm going to use my little tweezers. It helps me make sure that I'm not touching it somewhere I don't plan to. So let's just make sure that my leaf doesn't cover up any of my sentiment. And then I can start popping up my different elements. So this little leaf was on the edge, but I'm not afraid of that. I'm just going to trim around it so it looks like it was meant to be that way. So see, now nobody can tell. This one was at the edge as well. So don't worry about the edges. I think that you can easily get some beautiful things. Okay, so I'm using my bigger dimensionals. And so this pear duo are going to be up here. And then I've got my little blossom, which is going to go about right here. So once I start placing, I for sure want to put my dimensionals down first, and then I'm able to place my florals. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I just want them where I want them, kind of a thing. So Now this is a little bit easier because it's just going to nestle in with my other items. And I'm going to tuck this under so just a little bit of the flower is under my pear, and just kind of put that over to the side. And then I've got this. So this is going to need one dimensional under this leaf here. And then it's going to need glue dots for my other two places where, so I typically, if I've got something small, then I'm going to go ahead and just roll up my glue dot so that it ends up being a roll if it's a small area. And then for a bigger area, I can lay out the whole glue dot. Okay. Because this is going to go over the flower and the flower pops up, you can see, and then I've got a dimensional under here. Whoops. Don't cover up sentiment. There we go. Okay, so now we just have one more flower that I die cut out. And then that one can just be down here. So I'm going to place this next to the pear. And there we go. Now we just need our embellishments. So do you think this is too complicated, Amy, for the card buffet? Hopefully not, but hopefully you guys will give it a try. I don't try to make it so that it's maybe a little bit more than just a stamp and go, but it's got so many pretty elements to it. Okay, so I'm going to have to do my little embellishments a little bit differently than I have on the other card. And I'm just having a hard time getting these off. So I'm going to use my fingernails. There we go. All done. And then we have this little strip that I cut, because remember the 4 1/4 by 5, or 4" by 5 1/4. Then I always end up with a little bit of extra, and I'm going to just add this to one side of the inside of my card. And you can turn it over. And then if you want, you can just stamp a little something on the inside or on the envelope to decorate it, either using one of the pears or you can add DSP to your envelope flap. So there we go. There's our cards. And I hope that you enjoyed it tonight. Sorry about the shaking from my table. And stay safe. And we'll talk to you soon. Remember, I do my scrapbooking and scripture on Fridays. That'll be at 10:30. If you're watching this later on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Share with a friend. Oh, sorry about your cutting out. The card buffet. So this one is part of the card buffet. And hopefully you don't think it's too hard. So it's a little more of an avid crafter type of a card, but it's got such a beautiful finish. So, all right. Well, have a good evening.